Good morning from a very cold Colorado. It is 5 degrees Fahrenheit outside. I'm coming because we're getting some cold weather, and I want to see if the cold weather charging problems with the new BTC hardware is fixed here at our local Electrify America charging station. Now, down in Denver, there's a guy who's also doing the same test at the Lakewood Electrify America charger, same chargers. He was able to successfully charge this morning. Same temperature as here, about 5 degrees. Same here, totally successfully charging. The battery's frozen in the Rivian, so it's only getting 28 kilowatts, but that's because the battery's a brick. I left the truck outside overnight. So far, 5 degrees Fahrenheit doesn't seem like it's cold enough to trip the temperature situation, or the problem has been fixed. We're not sure yet. It's certainly going to get into the negatives over the next couple days. We'll be testing it, making sure we know exactly what temperature they fail at if they continue to fail. And then maybe if nothing fails, that's the ideal situation, then the problem is fixed. It is currently -2 outside. I just activated the charger through the app. So let's plug in and see how this goes. Interesting, I can hear the cable cooling running. Don't know if I recall that from last time. Cable in. See what happens. Now, for sure, these chargers definitely weren't working at 0 degrees before. It's absolutely colder than when those problems were happening. We haven't started quite yet, but everything's looking normal. It says, "Welcome, Kyle, 31 cents a kilowatt hour." And look, we are charging. Hell yeah. That's freaking awesome. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. You join me back here in Loveland, Colorado, where just a few weeks ago, I was here with this very truck trying to charge on the brand new Electrify America chargers. And I thank you guys for watching that video. I know it's had quite a bit of an impact in the charger world in terms of making reliability a huge point of focus. But I have good news for you in this update, which is we've just had another cold snap. Of course, I was out testing, and the good news is they're back to working. So let me explain the full situation to you. There are new problems that we've discovered, but ultimately this is a very positive video about the new Electrify America hardware now withstanding cold temperatures. So let me set the stage and bring you up to speed if you haven't seen the previous video on this topic, or if you just want to know the full picture. A couple weeks ago, we got a very cold snap here in Colorado, and it's not uncommon for us to get to 5 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Fahrenheit. We got down to almost -30 degrees Fahrenheit. However, when that temperature drop was happening, we were here when it was about 0 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and that's pretty normal temperatures. And while we were here, we showed up to this very charging station and found that they weren't working at all. There was 2 or 3 other cars here, including us, all trying to charge on them, and we kept getting an error that showed up as an isolation error. And that sort of prompted the "what the heck is going on here" question. So I went out on an explorative trip all around Colorado to go try out some of these new chargers. So if you come over here, let me show you these new chargers. And what I found was it wasn't just this station that wouldn't allow cars to charge. It was also the Lakewood, Colorado station. It was also Glenwood Springs. It was also another one near Wheat Ridge somewhere. I forget exactly the name of the city. But pretty much all of the new hardware installed in Colorado would not charge any cars. So I thought, oh my goodness, big problem. I showed EVgo working with their Delta units. I showed ChargePoint working on the CPE 250. And then, we roll up to EA. Their Signet units, their older ones, were working great. The ABB unit was working great. It was really this new hardware. And it's actually a little bit difficult for viewers sometimes who may not be super nerds like us to fully grasp. There's actually 2 different versions of this new hardware, and best we can tell, it's the version, if you come over here, that says BTC power. It'll say it right here on this side. So you'll notice on this dispenser right here, it says BTC power. That is one of the 2 suppliers of the actual chargers, which are off board, that feeds these dispensers. As far as we can tell, the problem, because we have, of course, plenty of people out, our viewers, we're also trying these, and we found that the Signet versions, the SK Signet versions of these, the chargers, working totally no issue. I don't think we had any cold weather issues with those. There are other problems, software problems, etc. You name it, they got it, but not in the cold weather. So we narrowed it down, throughout this investigative process, that the BTC hardware had trouble when the temperatures dropped. And they all were showing the isolation test issue. So fast forward now to the next cold snap that we had over the last couple days. We got down to about -9 degrees Fahrenheit, not as cold, but certainly colder than when these started to not work. And we had no issues. I pulled up here with my Rivian, with our e-tron, with an ID4. I tried multiple cars, different times of day, and not one single activation issue at all during this cold snap here. No isolation test issues. The cars were getting the power that they wanted from the chargers. Of course, most of the cars' battery packs were cold, so they couldn't accept much power, but still, the charger was capable of sending them. They will go to a derate, mostly because of the cable cooling stuff in here. They will derate in cold temperatures. That's normal. That's not really a bug. Chargers just, can't output full power in extreme cold temperatures, but that's not unusual. So I have to say, the problem's really looking pretty good, if I'm honest. I'm pretty pleased here. Now, when we start looking into what actually caused the issues in the cold temperatures, I have a couple running theories here. The first is we had such an extreme temperature drop when we had that last cold snap. Record-breaking temperatures from 30, 40 degrees, 50 degrees Fahrenheit outside of their beautiful days, down to boom, into the negatives. I mean, just a massive drop over a short period of time. I'm thinking perhaps there was some moisture in the actual charger units that may have frozen on bus bars or different connections and may have freaked some things out. What really gets me though is it wasn't just one or two of these BTC units exhibiting that behavior. It was actually all of them. It was all of the hardware. I can't imagine moisture would cause all of them, not just here in Colorado, but across the country during these cold temperatures to exhibit that same behavior. But it wasn't just the new BTC chargers. Older BTC chargers were experiencing the same isolation issues as well. And so that's a bit concerning. That's a working theory. The other theory actually is that maybe Electrify America has software updated these chargers to, for whatever reason, have a looser isolation test to allow the charging process to begin, and it actually working. That could be. Or it could have been a fluke, and we don't know why this happened. A couple things. I spoke to an Electrify America technician who was here maybe a week or two ago while I was here. He had mentioned that he heard about the problem loosely. This is an Electrify America employee who's responsible for Colorado. I don't know his name or anything, but he's like, oh, I think I heard about that. I'm like, what do you mean? Like this, like people were stranded everywhere. What are you talking about? People were getting hotels. Like it was days that they were down. And he's like, oh yeah, I think I heard about that. I was told we'd just wait for it to warm up. Again, this is very anecdotal. That's what he told me. I don't know exactly what goes on the back end. It's not my job to find out. I'm just here to report what I'm finding. So that's a bit concerning. The other thing that's a bit concerning here is, I think that is the most viewed video on charging in America, maybe ever, or at least up there, well over 1 million views in such a short period of time. We haven't heard one peep from Electrify America about the topic. They pretty much went silent. They stopped tweeting on Twitter. They just seemingly shut down and went into a hole. And I think a lot of our frustration as the community would be solved from better communication. And I think we're actually, unfortunately, seeing the opposite of that. Another content creator was making some videos about Electrify America and, went a little bit too far, I would say, started to take control of the chargers. I thought it was funny, not something I would personally do, but I thought, oh, that's hilarious. And Electrify America's response to a media outlet was, oh, we're going to take legal action to protect ourselves and our customers. Again, I'll let you look up the exact quote and the exact situation. It just seems like they're not understanding what EV drivers want. During this entire process, and I'm talking about just one reliability issue of these cold weather issues, people were worried about charging. I was like, you can't get through Colorado when it's cold because we couldn't get through Colorado when it was cold, relying on this network. We'd have to find other chargers. And all they were doing was A, totally silent, not interacting with anyone on the topic, and B, completely not understanding what EV drivers want by sending out surveys. Where are you going to take your electric vehicle next? I thought the messaging was a little bit odd. I'd really love a technical response, a public technical response as to what was actually happening during the cold weather. All I can say now, though, is good news, they're now working in the cold. Bad news, we still have more problems that are popping up. So there is these new, or I should say 3, 4, 5 situations that we've heard of recently where at least owners of vehicles are claiming that charging stations are bricking, or frying is the term that one of them used, frying their cars. Now, I personally am not afraid to plug in my vehicles to a charging station. My Rivian's charging right here. I'm not sure if this is network specific because it's really hardware based, although we've only seen it on one network. It's the one behind me. But there's a Bolt, a Lightning, and a Rivian that were all fried, according to the owners, by plugging into chargers. Now, I can't imagine why that would happen or how that would happen, but at least, you know, some are claiming it's happening. I don't know any situation here. I'd love, again, some comments from any of the automakers or the charging companies to explain what's going on here. I think it'd be really interesting if it actually happens to one of my vehicles, so we could go through that process. Who pays for the repairs if the charger fries the vehicle? This is just conceptual. If a charger fries a vehicle from a charger malfunction, you would think the charging company would cover that. As far as I've seen, the automakers have been fixing the vehicles. I don't know what's happening on the back end. That seems like a messy situation that the owners are stuck in the middle of, but I will say, I've reached out to a few of the owners. They're willing to join us for a podcast on this topic, and we'll be covering this as time goes on. It's still early days of EV ownership. The numbers of these problems happening are small, but it's something I'm keeping my eye on. And then, you know, just little other bugs we're seeing. Like every time I get to a charger, I got to quit out my EA app and reopen, and chargers are derated and all these little things. But that's nothing new. The main problem when it got cold was we actually couldn't get around northern Colorado because this station was down. But thankfully, all good. You know, look, at the end of the day, I think Electrify America deserves certainly all of the accurate reporting that our viewers, people who are using Rate Your Charge, are tagging in. That's all justified, but equally justified are the positive stories that we can bring. For example, updating you here that we are seemingly good to go in cold temps. I'll always be keeping an eye on it. Really appreciate you guys trying out chargers and testing them out as well. For those of you who don't know, we've started a new outlet, basically from all of the frustrations over Christmas break. I have a whole video called, I think it was like Christmas Break from Hell or something like that, because the number of problems were truly insane across all charge point operators, not just EA. But you know, I think our viewers are doing a great job of tagging Rate Your Charge on Twitter when they get to charging stations, explaining how they're working and how sometimes they're not working. We are starting to issue a weekly report. Every weekend you'll get a report from Rate Your Charge as to sort of the state of charging across the country, and that will be publicly posted and emailed to every charge point operator. So that everyone can see everyone's metrics from our side that we're gathering, and hopefully work to improve the state of DC fast charging in the country. We'll also be launching an app in the near future, etc. But for now, tag us on Rate Your Charge on Twitter. We'll also be working on a manual entry form if you prefer not to use Twitter, to use Rate Your Charge. But ultimately, I've been checking in here, making videos. If you guys follow me on Twitter, all positive through the cold weather testing. Couldn't be more pleased, actually. I don't know if EA did something to fix the problem or if it was just a fluke when it was cold. For sure the chargers weren't working, and now in colder temperatures than when they stopped working, they are starting to work, and they're working fine. So great positive coverage. Go have fun road tripping your EVs. Tag us on Rate Your Charge, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again. Bye-bye.